Now that we know the functions of the camera, let's go ahead and take a look at our particular cameras. So we're first going to look at the JVC 150. And we're looking at the right side of the camera. So let's go ahead and zoom in and take a look at the controls near the lens. So L is obviously the lens of the camera. J is where you will find the lens cap, and you can click it opened or closed. So when you're done with the camera, you want to close it. Before you begin shooting, you want to make sure that the lens cap is opened. K can be dual duty. So K is your focus control, unless you'll notice where we have marked the letter B, if it's in the zoom position, then K becomes your zoom control if you turn off the servo. So K can either be focus or zoom. The default position for it is, of course, focus. You'll find your neutral density filter. Below the neutral density filter is your iris control. If it's not in auto, that's where you would change the iris setting to change the f-stop. You'll see your gain control is right beside that. We've got low, medium, and high, and low would of course be 0 dB. We've got your white balance controls right next to that. You've got a B, A, and preset. So A and B will allow you to basically memorize a white balance. So once you hit the auto white balance in B, that white balance will be in the B selection. If you click to A, you can set another white balance and it will be under A. The PRST stands for preset, and it is a preset number that you cannot change. We don't want to use it on preset. So if your video doesn't look like the right color and you white balanced, it's probably because that is in the wrong position. You'll see G is your auto manual iris control. And this allows you to toggle between auto iris and manual iris. And you'll notice that all this information is shown in the screen, which we'll take a look at in just a few minutes. Above there, you'll see full auto. We want to leave that on manual. And that's indicated on screen by either an M or an A. You do have to depress that button twice in order to get it out of full auto. You'll see F there is autofocus or manual focus, and again, pressing that button in toggles between the two. We definitely want to use manual focus. Please do not put it in autofocus and then try to focus the camera. It burns out the motor. Next, we'll take a look at the audio controls. You can see that we have an input 1 and an input 2. And then we have no options for channel 1, but we do have options for channel 2. So again, we talked about this. If you plug a microphone into input 1, and you put channel 2 on input 1, that will bring your audio in on both channel 1 and channel 2. If that's in the input 2 area, then you're only going to bring your input 1 in on channel 1, but not on channel 2. And then you'll see we've got line, mic, and mic plus 48. Line is if you're taking audio from an audio board. Mic is a microphone. And then that plus 48 is phantom power. And as you'll learn in class, some microphones require power, others don't. You will not damage a microphone if you put it on phantom power and it doesn't need phantom power. So you can leave that on phantom power. There is one exception to that, and that is if you've got the boom mic plugged in, you will burn out the box if you leave it on phantom power. So lavaliers, they require phantom power. The stick mics that we use in the field do not require phantom power. And then right beside that, you've got auto manual control. And so auto control is exactly what it sounds like. The camera will control the levels. Sometimes it adds a little compression to it, or at least limits it. So sometimes you'll hear weirdness to your audio. I suggest using it on manual and actually checking your levels. We actually want our audio to be at -12. And then if we spin around to the back here, you'll find another zoom control, your record button, and then your menu button there on the side of the viewfinder. You'll also find your record button up there by your zoom control. You'll find a couple of other buttons inside the viewfinder. Be careful of low lux. If that gets depressed, everything will be way bright and really, really grainy. So if you've got your gain off, but it still looks like you're getting artificial light from something, it could be that your low lux is on. The display button there will toggle through different displays on your viewfinder. C review stands for clip review, and it'll let you look at the last thing that you recorded. And Zebra we'll talk a little bit more about in a higher level class. So right now you don't need to worry about Zebras. Slot select just tells you what SD card is in play at the moment. You'll also find on the very back there is where your volume is. There's also a way to change your shutter speed, but we'll talk about that in a later class. OIS is image stabilization, which we'll talk about at a later class, and AE is auto exposure, which we'll talk about at a later class. So right now, you can choose from a record format of 1080 by 1920, 1080 by 1440, or 1280 by 720, or standard definition. And then we can also choose the file type. And you'll find more information about this when we get into our SD discussion. But for right now, we're going to use 1080 by 1920 when we shoot, and we are going to use QuickTime. The power button is on the exact opposite side of all those other controls. You do need to push in. There's a little blue nub on the top that you need to push in when you want to get it turned on. And that's also how you can toggle between the camera being in camera or being in media, where you can look at your clips. Then finally you can see the front of the camera with the lens cap opened. And you'll also see that where you find your white balance button is directly underneath the lens, and it's marked AWB, and that's where your auto white balance is.